Hey everyone, welcome to Iconic 24. I'm Shelby. I am one of the social partnership managers here at Vagaro, and today we're here with Miss Sara Rainbolt. She is an amazing esthetician from LA, and she's here to talk about automation in your business. And that can be something that, people may be afraid of or not sure what to do. So she's here today to talk a little bit about that and answer some of your questions. So make sure throughout the live that you leave your questions, your opinions. There'll be polls popping up for you to answer, and let's just have some fun. So Sara, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit, and how amazing you are.
Oh my gosh, that's so sweet. So my name is Sara, and I'm an esthetician based in Los Angeles, California. I have a business called Bolt Beauty LA that I run as a solo entrepreneur, and I'm also an aesthetics instructor, mentor, and educator. So not only am I in the treatment room, but I'm also in the classroom and a virtual classroom as a Vagaro icon coach, which is amazing. Yeah. And so, so I'm super excited to chat today.
Yeah. So what don't you do? Literally, which is awesome. So, automation is something that is, I feel like something we weren't ready for maybe even 10 years ago. And I think it's really came up within the last few years, and people have turned online booking on more, and that was a fear of there's a control aspect behind automation. So I guess what I want to ask you is, how has automation, especially using Vagaro, of course, transformed your approach to your client relationship management? So, sometimes it can feel like, well, it feels robotic. I want to text them, I want to call them, but does that really use your time wisely? Time is money, Totally. So why don't you touch a little bit on how you kind of got through that and how it helps you now?
Totally. Yeah. So time is money for me, but it's also money for my clients, right? They don't want anything that's super complicated. They don't want to have to DM me on, social media and then hope that I respond. It's nice for them to just be able to go on and do the client booking and do all of that. So on their end, it just streamlines everything and makes everything so much easier for them. They can choose multiple services if they want, or just one. It gives them my whole schedule, and so we don't have to do the whole back and forth because time is money for both of us. And also, I think just on my end of it, the automation of having everything all in one place. Because when you're a business owner and you're a solo entrepreneur, you don't have admin people. You are the admin person. You wear all the hats. And so it's so nice to just be able to have everything at my fingertips and everything in one place. I can just click the different tabs. I can, go in there and, I need to know about my reports. I need to know about what I have coming up next month. I need to block this time out because I'm going on vacation, whatever it is. It just makes it so much easier for me to just not have to use multiple different platforms and just have everything in one place.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And also too, I feel like even as a client, you are so busy and you have all the things you need to do. And what I love is when I get the text reminder, totally. You have to see Sara tomorrow. And I'm like, oh my God, totally, and that's your time too. If I totally forget, and then what are you going to call me up and call every client?
A lot of people still do that. They do the confirmation where they have their list of clients that they're going to have, and they're like, oh, I need to call or text each and every client and confirm their appointment. And it's like, no, I just open Vagaro and it's pink. And I'm like, oh, perfect, they're confirmed. And if they're not, then I can reach out. But it makes it so much easier for me.
Absolutely. And something that's really awesome too, and maybe you can break it down a little bit of your online booking process. So some people, there's a fear behind that of if I just open the floodgates and I don't know what's going to pop up, or if they're a new client, or, how do you navigate that yourself?
Totally. Yeah. So I'm a single mom of 3 kids. And so not only am I a solo entrepreneur, not only am I a mentor, not only am I an educator and all these things, I have stuff going on in my life that, it's so easy for me to just go in there and block out a day or, go in and adjust my schedule to what I need it to be as far in advance as I need it to be. And so making all of it just so streamlined and automated just makes it takes the guesswork out of it for me and then allows me to be more present with my clients and with my students because I'm not worried about all of the paperwork and all of
exactly. And something cool too, you guys, newer feature that just released is specific times and days for booking certain appointments, which
oh my gosh, I love that so much. I'm so excited about that.
Yeah, I feel like there's those appointments where like I can only, especially I can think of, because I come from that world, is like the hair world, like doing a service like a with a strong chemical, like only Sundays, and then I have to, then that takes the automation out of it. Totally. But now it's back.
Yeah, and so for me, it's like if I want to do, sometimes it can be difficult if I'm doing, because I do lash lifts and I do facials, and so like bopping back and forth between can be, I have to like clear the whole thing and start all over. And so it's nice because I can do a full day of facials back to back and I can do a full day of lash lifts back to back. And it just makes it so much easier for me instead of having to like switch out my room for every single client.
So true. That's why automation's great. I love it. Can you share a success story where automation significantly enhanced the client experience in your practice? So do you have a story, or not even that, of just something that you're like, that was a great experience for you and your client?
I think all of my clients love it. I mean, I haven't had any negative, or I've only had positive things about how much they love it. I think especially the client reminders and the client confirmation and all that. It's so easy for them, like, because they schedule a month out or 2 months out. And so sometimes they'll completely forget. And so I have it set so that way at 48 hours they're confirming. So that way if something comes up, they can be like, hey, I can't make it, So all across the board, like everybody loves it. Everybody thinks it's so great to just be able to just pop online, do it, and then, it's so easy for everybody.
So easy. And I know in like that 48-hour window, which I feel like cancellation policies are so different for everyone. And I'd love to hear all of your different cancellation policies. That 48 hours, do you feel like that gives you enough time to fill that slot where it pops back up online?
Totally, yeah. And if I have a wait list, then I can pull from the wait list and it gives them enough time, because a lot of times a 24-hour just isn't enough, especially in LA. Everybody's busy. Everybody's like scheduled to the minute. And so that 48 hours gives me a little bit of time to fill that. And then it also gives me an idea, if I want to move up the rest of my day because there's a gap in the middle of the day or whatever, it gives me a little bit of breathing room. I feel like with 24 hours, it doesn't work for me. But that's the beauty of this whole system, is that you can make it whatever you want it, right? So if I did want to start doing 24 hours, I could do that. And I could just have them confirm 24 hours instead of 48 or whatever the case is. It's so flexible and it's just so easy to change it with however you need for your schedule.
That's awesome. So I want to know a little more about you and like your story of why are we here? Why did you choose skin? I feel like, everyone has a different story of how they fell into whatever industry they're in, and what inspired you to become an esthetician, and how did you start your business? It seems like an idea, and how does that come to fruition into like where we are now?
Yeah. So in 2019, I became a single mom of 3 kids. I mentioned that earlier. And I didn't have a career. I didn't have an education. And I had always loved skincare. But my amazing and wonderful therapist was like, you need to go to trade school. And I was like, no, I'm good. I need to get a job. And he was like, Sarah, I don't care if you do underwater welding. Like, literally, just do anything. Like, just go to a trade school. And so I always loved skincare. My aunt is an esthetician, and so I had kind of the knowledge of that, but not really realizing that was a trade. And I Googled trade schools in Los Angeles, and cosmetology popped up, and I've never been, drawn to hair at all. And I saw that there was an aesthetics program, and it was like a light bulb, and it just made sense. So I like to say it was like a lightning bolt. It like hit me like a lightning bolt, and I was like, oh, this is it. This is what I want to do. And so I ran down there and I like paid, and I was like, I'm starting. And it just, everything has evolved from there. And then I, became an instructor at a beauty college, and that evolved into being an educator and a mentor. And I kind of.
Yeah, I mean, like, started from the bottom, now we're here.
Yeah, right.
And I'd love to hear, everyone's story too, of, how some people they were in the restaurant industry, and then our hairdressers, or they were, working in an office and then shift over. And I just love that not everything feels like so permanent, and that you could really your dreams can come true. So I'm like really happy and excited for you that, that happened. And if someone right now is watching and, say they're a student or want to open their own business or they're really nervous, like what would your advice be to them?
I mean, my best advice would be to have all of the systems in place, right? That's why we love Vagaro, because it's so easy to have everything all in one place. It makes your job a lot easier. And also just keep learning and continue your education, because it doesn't just stop. This industry is evolving so quickly. Like even just from, 5 years ago when I started school, it is a completely different industry. Everything, there's so much more available. There's so many more skincare lines. There's so much more education. I think COVID really made a lot of online education available that you can do at your own pace. And so that's great. And so like just for them to just keep learning and just keep staying involved and like interested in what you're actually doing, because it can, when you're a solo entrepreneur, like it can get kind of lonely and isolating.
Yeah, like that passion has to be there still, because it's like, what do you get up every day and like deal with everything for if you don't love it? So that's really important. What would you say, kind of shifting back to the technology side, what are the features on Vagaro that you just, it's like you're like must-haves, it's like, oh, like J-Lo's top thing, like, 5 things, like what's your top?
We don't have enough time.
But like we'll extend it to our special.
All of the things. I love the online booking. Obviously, it makes my life so much easier. I love the reports, so that at the end of the day, I can see how much I'm making, or at the end of the month, I can see, or the end of the year. The thing that I, swear by, that I tell everybody, is I love that at the end of the tax year, I can just take everything and I can just export a PDF and send it to my accountant. I don't have to do anything. I just export the Excel doc and I send it to him, and it's all there. All of the tips, all of the taxes, all of the product, all of the everything is in there, because I'm taking payments from only Vagaro. And so it's just all there. I don't need to kind of grab from Venmo and all these other like things. The QuickBooks is just there, and it's so wonderful, and I love that. I swear by it. Makes my life so much easier. And my accountant.
Yeah, right. I know, it's like all really sometimes to the numbers. It's like being able to see it and visualize it and be like, okay, like what's trending, what's not, are people coming back, are they not, or like, should I start increasing my prices? Am I running out of, is my time being more scarce, so then I need to bump it up? I feel like you need all that information, and it's so great that Vagaro has that and in an easy, accessible place. So that's incredible. Something that I think people would love to hear, and sometimes we only hear like what the success and what's always working, and that's not real in anyone's life. And I think that what are some of the challenges that you've faced in having your business, having your clients, like what are some things that you've struggled with?
I mean, besides starting my business during COVID.
Right.
And building a client base when things were open and closed, and then mostly closed. Besides that, I think, just building a client base in general. I think it can be really disheartening when you get out there and you're trying all of the things, and you feel like you're doing everything you possibly can, and it's not really getting anywhere, and you only have one client here, one client there. And so I think that, using the promos and the daily deals and things like that on Vagaro really helped me to bring clients in, and also just not like pivoting and not giving up when it's hard, because I know it's really like, it can be really disheartening when you don't have the clientele and you're really trying to build that business. But, there's so many resources available and so many people. And that's, I think, the great part about the mentorship program too, is having someone after you get out of school, no matter whether you're going to work for someone else or you're going to work on your own, whatever you're choosing, to have someone come alongside you and help you, with the questions that you have about starting a business or whatever, whichever way you're going.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, starting out new, no clients, like, it's like, then what? What happens? Like, so, sharing that you had 0 at one point, and now a full clientele, probably a long wait list, that has to feel like hopeful in some way. And I think it's great to hear that, utilizing the daily deals or putting yourself on the Vagaro Marketplace and just being visible to people is like number one. Number two is what's the experience like for the client? So how do you make sure that client has a great experience? Is there something that you always implement, whether it's down to your practice or your how you are? Like, what are some tips for them? Okay, they got the client, now how do I keep it?
Yeah. Yeah, I think I always tell my students that in our industry, there are luxury facials, which are like the fluffy kind of only massage that you get at like a spa on vacation or something. And there are more clinical like med spa or dermatology facials. And so I try to fall somewhere in between. So I provide corrective skincare treatments while also providing a luxury experience. So whether that is my bed is comfy, I have a bed warmer on it, I have like mood lighting, you know, whether it's the music or the, you know, like their experience while they're there is very meaningful, and it makes a huge difference, especially since there are a lot of places that kind of are like fast food facials where you don't even take off your shirt, you just kind of sit there and they do it really fast. Yeah, some people get surprised and I'm like, here, put this robe on, and they're like, you want me to take my clothes off? Like, wait, what? I'm like, yeah, so I mean, yeah, exactly. So like providing kind of that luxury experience, which does not cost any more. Like it's not
So true.
a bit, you know, that much more to do. And just really the personal connection part of it too is, as much as I have all of my systems automated, there is like the personal touch part that is very important to me. Like, and that I am like still sending out personal text messages, which can be a lot when you have a lot of clients. But, you know, because everything else is automated, I have the ability to, and the time and the energy and the bandwidth and the capacity to reach out to them and follow up with them or check in with them or, you know, say, how are you doing? Or, hey, I haven't seen you on the books for a little while. Like, how are you doing? Exactly. Yeah.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, it's like the experience will just like sometimes, you know, especially being in the service industry, like remembering the things about them, like how's Grandma Betty? Like, and they're like, you remember the notes?
The notes. I tell my students all the time, like, take notes, like write down that they went on vacation, write down their wedding date, write down their grandma's name, write down their people love when you remember their dogs' names or ask how their dogs are. So like really those personal touches are really meaningful to people, and they really want to stay with you because they feel really cared for and really valued.
Yeah, and sometimes it's like you like some days you're like, oh, I'm not on my A game, but like they just wanted to come chat and like they feel just as good, and obviously the service is still the same, but like, you know, that is what I think where the automation and the personal comes together. It's like you can't have one without the other. Like if I can't book with you, how do I get your personal touch? And if I book with you and you're dead quiet, then I'm not coming back. So you need both people. So something I want to chat about too is for starting your own business. What advice do you have for someone, like say they're seasoned or even not, and they want to go and do their own thing and like have their own, say like a Vagaro account or even have STs under them? What is some advice you have for someone that wants to venture into that, like their own business?
I think like the whole thing we're talking about is automation, right? That makes it easier for you to be a better provider because you have more of a capacity, because you are not worried about those things. So you can be more invested in your clients and creating a valuable experience for them because, which like I said, it's not complicated. It's not difficult to have a nice, comfy, warm bed or, you know, to have things that smell good. Because at the end of the day, yes, like they're there for a facial, you're there to provide a service, but the experience is what keeps them coming back. And so really investing into the experience. When I first started out, I was in a really small little, I used to call it a cave. It was a very small little one room with like a little tiny bathroom. It was an old building and it had a really ugly couch. It was like, it was not great, but it was all I had when I started out. And so I really focused on the things that I could control and the things that the places where I could add value to their experience. So yes, that was cushioning the bed, that was adding a bed warmer, that was having really soft towels, that was making sure that the products that I was using smelled like a spa, or making sure that it smelled like a spa when they walked in to, you know, come in for their facial and things like that. So like really paying attention to those details and making sure that it's an experience that they feel like, oh, wow, I felt really valued. I felt like I invested money in myself and I'm not leaving there regretting it.
Oh yeah. And even on like a personal level, I mean, it's hard to have a business. It's like, it's not something that we're like, oh yeah, it's easy and great. And you know, if you have this and that, you know, it's on a personal level, it's difficult. And like on that level, what kind of advice do you have if someone's like, oh my gosh, like how do I balance like work and life and clients and my kids and my family? I mean, there's no perfect answer, but you know, someone that may feel overwhelmed, like, is there something or a voice or a mantra that you like to remember, or like something that helps you with that? Because it can probably feel so like, oh,
Yeah.
trying to swim to the top.
Totally. I think it can feel really isolating. I think especially as a solo entrepreneur, a solo esthetician, if you're working in a space with lots of other people and you're seeing them in the break room and all of that, but it can feel really isolating, especially for me personally, when I get overwhelmed or when I feel like I have a lot going on, I am very introverted. And so I can isolate. And then that's not good for my mental health. It's not good for my clients. It's not, you know, I'm not like, I'm literally not saying this because this is the title of it, but like automating my business has helped me do that because it frees up so much of my brain space. I can be an amazing mom. I can schedule things, you know, if my youngest has a kindergarten tea, I can be there for that because I can block out my schedule on that Thursday and I can be there and I can be sitting in the front row and not having to worry about if the whole entire business behind me is burning down to the ground because I'm not there to kind of like keep everything together, you know, and when you don't have the, you know, the income yet to hire admin, or if you don't have the help and it's just you wearing all of the hats, then you have to have something in place. And also I think I keep coming back to the mentorship too, like having somebody who is farther ahead than you in the game and who can encourage you and who can support you and who can say, hey, you're doing a great job. Let me help you with this so I can help you take it off of your plate, or let me help you, you know, with like maybe you can do this or maybe you can do that, so that way, and give you a different perspective on it. Yeah,
seems
totally.
like phone a friend, like I need help, like you know, and that's okay to like ask for help. I feel like that's such a huge thing, and I get that even on a personal level where it's like I just want to be able to do it, and I'm a solo, and solo means solo, and but like you know,
you're not gonna grow that way.
No. So let's talk about some trends. I feel like getting into the, you know, actually what you do every day and the art that you perform. What are some trends that you're seeing in your industry specifically, and how do you think like you'll adapt to them, or how do you think they will kind of stick around, or you know, what's going on there?
I think there's a lot of like TikTok skincare that is getting people in trouble.
Thumbs up if you're on TikTok.
Yeah, thumbs up if you're on TikTok, but also like let your esthetician like tell you what kind of skincare you need.
Vaseline.
Oh my god,
and like I sleep with it. I'm like
totally. And there are some things that are going to work for everyone, but for the most part, like what is going to be great for someone is not necessarily going to be great for you. And so I think there's a lot of people who are coming in who need more personalized skincare routines because they're coming in with all their skincare, and I'm like, I'm overwhelmed for them. I have an education and I know all the skincare ingredients and I know what they're using. And so if it's overwhelming for me, it has to be overwhelming for them. They don't know where to start. But I think, you know, the social media aspect of it is like, it's make or break it. Like it is where everybody is, and that's where everybody's getting their information right now. So staying on top of that and staying ahead of the trends there is like
it's important. And well, and it's also too like educating your client when they come in and like, oh, like, but they said, and you know, how do you approach that when you're like trying to help their issue and they're like, but TikTok, like what I guess what is your practice in that, you know, nicely?
Nicely. I always tell my students, like managing client expectations is like the biggest thing, right? So, you know, when they come in, I think there are a lot of people, especially people who have acne and they pick, they'll come in and they'll feel really ashamed about it, or they'll come in and my first thing is like, I'm a picker. Like I'm not supposed to be, but like I do it too. Like I'm very like anti-shaming clients. You know, I'm very much like, I'm like, I just try to be empathetic and understanding. I think also like just knowing your stuff and knowing your ingredients and knowing enough to where you can say, well, like I can totally see why you would think that this would work, but like I think we have a better way to do this. I also am somebody who doesn't like to load up a first-time client with a ton of skincare, like their very first appointment. And so we kind of try to see what we can work with the things that they've already bought, because sometimes they've already gone to 3 other estheticians who have given them products. And so, you know, I will have them send me a photo of their skincare, like all the skincare they have. And we'll pick and choose, and, you know, we'll look at ingredients together and I will explain it to them. I think people don't want to be rushed, and they don't want to be talked down to, and they don't want to be shamed. And I think that when you are overwhelmed or overloaded, or if you're maybe not in it for the right reasons and you're just trying to make a buck, like, people can feel very taken advantage of. And so I think slowing down and realizing that you're giving them a service that they are investing their money in, and they need to feel valued, and they need to feel it's not just like a one-stop shop. Like, they come in, they get it done, and then they leave again. Yeah,
we're on a journey, guys.
Totally,
like,
exactly.
You're with me, I'm with you.
Exactly. So managing their expectations and kind of just chatting with them and sharing with them and being like, oh yeah, I totally understand. Like, me too. Like, that's like the hugest thing. It's like, oh, that happens to me too. Like, that's the biggest thing for clients, that they want to hear, that you like can empathize with them.
I love that. And it's like just leveling with them, and just, I love that you're saying, you know, it's all part of the experience, and having them come back, where it's like, you're like, I have like goals with you and we can build it together. And it's not like, yeah, girl, let me just, you know, get in there and see you later. Like, that's so important. And that, I think that just shows the passion you have with it. It's like, that's where it's all stemming from, which is so cool and so refreshing. How do you use social media, which that's like, you know, on that topic, and other digital platforms to promote your business?
I always tell everybody who asks with my social media, I always tell everybody, my Instagram is my business card. Nobody carries around paper business cards anymore, really. If someone is going to refer someone to me, they are going to send them my Instagram profile. And so I always have that with like all of my information and where they can find me, and I make it as easy as possible for them. And I have all of my, you know, my Vagaro links. They can DM me directly, all of these things. I have everything accessible to them, everything updated. Like, I don't leave anything old on there. I'm constantly updating it and changing it, so that way all the links are good and they're not going to click on something that's broken. And stories with links, and you know, because a lot of times the static feed, people aren't really scrolling through that a lot. And so, you know, you can post something on your static feed and it might pop up, it might not. So making sure that you're sharing that in stories, you're adding links to your stories, you're making it interesting. Adding captions to your stories, always adding captions to your stories, because some people just list like it without the sound off and they want to just read the captions and that's it. So engaging with them in that way, because otherwise they're just going to swipe right through and it's not interesting to them. So
exactly. I know, it's like your like living, breathing portfolio, essentially, where it's like, okay, when I want to learn about a service provider, I'm going to their Instagram, I'm going to go look, I'm going to see what are their clients like, what are they like? Because sometimes you can see a certain type of clientele, like, oh, do I feel like I identify with that? Or like, oh, they have this type of skin, like, oh, I see myself there, or, you know, that type of vibe. And I think something too, you guys, let us know if you have your book now button in your Instagram, which is such a cool feature, because I feel like a lot of people may not know that, because you can throw your link in your bio and that's super cool. But just a fun fact, automation wise, it's very obvious for them. They can see it says book now, and it'll take you right to your Vagaro. So if you don't have that on, that's your challenge today to figure out that.
Add it immediately.
Add it now. But yeah, it's like, if that's where they're looking for you, then having your easy link back to your booking is so important. There's so many times where I've looked and I'm like, I have to find your grandma's page, your mom's page to like find your booking.
And put your face on there. Like I say that all the time, put a picture of yourself. Like this is a very like kind of vulnerable place to be in when you're like laying on a table and you have no makeup and someone's analyzing every little tiny thing on your face. And so showing up, showing your face, whether it's in stories or on your static feed. I can't tell you how many times I have like students or mentees who I'm like scrolling through their feed and we're talking about social media and I cannot find one picture of their face on there. And it's like, as a consumer, as a client, I need to know that when I'm looking at you, I can trust you, or I feel like I can know you a little bit. You're literally wandering into some person's like random place. They need to know what you look like, you know? And so you like, yes, post your before and afters, post all of the things that are important for your content, but every few like photos, have a picture of your face. You don't have to be looking at camera. You don't have to be smiling. You don't have to, but post your face on there so people can connect with you and people can go, oh, this is the person I want to book with. Because if you're just showing your before and afters and you're just showing the products that you're selling, it's not personal at all. And it's very like, it's just very empty.
It's
you
just
know?
like, it's business only. Okay,
Exactly,
got it.
exactly.
Where like that's not like a thing anymore. Especially like solopreneurs, and you know, it's like I'm buying into like you and like and your brand and your vibe and your values, and that's really what it's turned into. People aren't like transactional anymore. Where it's like, oh, the exchange for goods and money. Like that's just not, especially the industry. That's just not how it is. And I think that's great because like, you know, you're a nail tech, your hairdresser, you're a trainer. Like you want to feel like your friends. And like when you're following them and you see like, oh look, my Essie's at the fair with her family. Like,
and then it gives you something to talk about in your appointment. I have so many clients who show up and they're like, oh my gosh, you're exactly what I expected you to be, because they've been watching my stories and they've been like trying to do a little bit of research on me.
Well, let's get real. We all stalk people, okay?
Exactly. I mean, don't tell anybody.
Don't tell anyone.
But they like show up and they take one look at me, or they have a conversation. They're like, you're exactly what I thought you were going to be. And that connection is what keeps people with you, because if it's just a transaction, you're gonna have really great first time, one time only clients. But if you want regular clients, if you want a wait list, you have to connect with them. You have to have that personal relationship with them. You have to check in on them when they're, you know, you see on their story like, oh, I'm not feeling well, like check in with them. Just say, oh my gosh, get well soon. I'm so sorry. I follow a lot of my clients and that's how I stay connected with them. And that's how I can keep up with them and chat with them when they're in the treatment room. Oh my gosh, how was your trip to Japan?
Like, be like, saw you at the beach. Did you wear the SPF?
Exactly. That's always, I'm like, you wore a hat, right?
Right. So no, I love that. And I love that you're being so real about that, and just being like, hey, like show yourself, show your face, show like your personal, and like that connection is just, it's just, you know, you can't buy that.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so let's talk about reviews. So, which that is, I think, something so sought after anyone who has a business. You know, when Vagaro does have their Vagaro, you know, review area, how do reviews and client testimonials play in your marketing strategy? So, you know, I always see online people resharing like those little quotes, like that's just like the icing on the top. It's like that street cred of like, oh, she's good. So, how do you encourage clients if you do, and B, like, and how does that work in your process?
Yeah, I think, you know, beyond the Instagram as my like business card, the next step that people take is looking at your reviews, because I don't go to a restaurant without looking at Yelp, right? Like I'm looking at Yelp. I'm looking at how many stars they have. I'm trying to see like what the photos are, what I'm going to eat. And I think people are very similar with personal services. And so I think for me personally, the fact that when they check out, it automatically has the little thing. Is great, because they'll just be like, boop, and they'll do it right there. And I don't have to remind them, you know. I'm not somebody who really pressures people into it.
So, yeah,
because they can get
awkward. But if it pops up, you're like, it's Vagaro.
Exactly. That's the nice thing about like sending it to their phone, and they can just, I don't know if enough people know about that, but you know, there is the card reader and there is that available, but also you can just do it and you can send it to their phone and they can check it on their phone and you can go to the room and you can like change the bed, and you can be like, you know, because there's also the tip part on there, and you know, so they do all of that on their own phone, and I think it feels like very private, especially in like tipping culture, which it can get really hairy and really weird. Exactly, we're on the same page. And so I think, you know, that is an amazing feature of Vagaro that I absolutely love, but I think client reviews are just as important as like they're the next step after like someone's personal account, right? So I will take it and I will take the quote and I will pull it over and I will add it to my Instagram, and that will be in my static feed. So when someone goes to look at my static feed, they can click on it and they can look and see what the person said. And then also all of the reviews on Vagaro that are just like so easy to access when they pull up my Vagaro page. It's just the first thing they see. They see photos and then they see my reviews and they see, oh, like this is great. Yeah, like totally, like 5 stars. Like,
yeah, exactly. No, that's so awesome. And I feel like the review portion just is so important to have, like, within your business. Like any new person, it's like, okay, I have 0. Like, I mean, everyone had 0 once. And it just giving yourself that grace and that time, but utilizing things like that where it does pop up for them and you're not like, hey girl, like, which is fine. Like, I think asking reviews is so fine.
It totally. And I asked when I, at the very beginning, when I like was really building it, I definitely would, mention a little something, but now I think it's,
it's like, okay, like that's great to have it. And, so that's a great feature to, make sure you have on. And then also, fun fact, reviews are like gold. So I know that people that are switching over from other softwares to us, they're like, well, I got all those. Like, where do they come? We transfer all of them over. So you would never lose it. And that's just something to know. And it could hold someone back from trying a new system out, and just something to know and share with friends. Those things they'll stay with you. So that's great to know. Okay, so into the more sappy area, which I love. What has been the most rewarding part of being an esthetician in your career?
If I'm being a little selfish, realizing that how capable I am, realizing that when I started out doing this, I had no idea if I was going to be good at it. I just kind of took a risk and was like, well, let's see how this goes. And then getting to the point I am now where I'm really working with new estheticians all the time, student estheticians who don't even have their license yet. And I can, spend time with them and encourage them and mentor them, is a really cool place to be. And I think it sounds cheesy, but I'm proud of myself. And I think the people that I've worked with and the connections that I've made, not just other, like my peers, I have amazing relationships with my peers and other estheticians that I work with. And that I, it's very, like, it's an amazing community. And then my clients, I always joke, I see my clients more than I see my friends, because I see them every single month and they, book their appointments, and then my clients become my friends. And now a lot of my clients are some of my absolute closest friends who've been with me in the last, 4-5 years, who have gone through some really serious things and have really, held me up and encouraged me and supported me, not just financially by booking with me, but in other ways too. And so,
I know there's nothing like that OG client when you first start that has been with you this whole time. It's like,
oh my gosh. Okay. So I have to tell you, so my hair stylist is one of my favorite people. I've been with her for 12 years. She is on Vagaro too. So I don't have to convert her or anything, but she is the one that told me about Vagaro. And I started working with Vagaro because of her, and she was my very first client.
How weird.
In 2020, if I scroll all the way back through all of my clients, I had one client in, I think it was it July of 2020? Yes, it was right after I got my license. And she was the first person. She showed up, she supported me, and so it's it's fun to kind of be able to scroll back and see. I had one client that month, and it was her, and she is on Vagaro too.
That's so sweet. I know. Leave your first client stories. I love those, because it's they have grown with you. Even in your life too, because when you have a client, you can't help but you're gonna learn each other's story, what's going on in the family, friends, and it's they know you inside and out. And there's some days you sit down and you're like, hey, and they're like, what's wrong?
And they've been your guinea pigs too. Your new services are always on them, and you can tell if it's a good one to keep or not. And
it's a great position to hold, So if anyone, is out there and you see someone's new client special, that could be your next soulmate. Your next and
to realize that, sometimes you start out with one client a month.
And that's okay.
that, and I have no shame in saying that. I tell people all the time, I think people can be really private about where they started out, or, you know, that they only have a couple clients in a month, because social media can be very deceiving and it can make everyone look booked and busy, right? Like which is the goal. You want to look booked and busy. You want to look like there's value in what you're charging and all of that, but it's not reality. There are weeks that are really slow. There are months that are really slow. There are seasons that are really slow. And so I think that, you know, you have to understand that social media can be a little deceiving sometimes, and everybody has to start somewhere.
And how, when those slow times come, like, how do you get through that, like, mentally, you know, because it's like, am I ever gonna get another client again? It's like you start to like catastrophize, you know, which, you know, is not gonna happen, but how did you get through that?
I mean, I think in those slow seasons were when I really used the daily deals or the promotions, the Vagaro feature where they like push you out to Vagaro, you know, members and things like that. And so I think that I really kind of, I mean, it was only an extra $10 a month.
Yeah, I was about to ask you, like, when you did use like, what kind of deal would you do? Or like, what would you like say in your daily deal?
I don't.
Just like, oh, like maybe like a free gua sha or something.
Yeah,
like something
it was always an addition. Like I don't charge extra for LED, but I would say, oh, free LED, because a lot of people charge extra for LED. I personally don't, so I kind of made it like, and it was something that wasn't going to cost me more or take out of, you know, whatever it was that they were paying. And so, but I mean, for only $10 extra a month for them to push you to people who are already on Vagaro, it's incredibly valuable, because you're not doing anything. You don't have to do more than you're already doing. You sign up for that for $10 a month, or I think that's what it is. It just pushes you out to the people who are using Vagaro, and that's amazing. And people in your area, right? So it's great, because like you're not doing and you're not doing any extra work, and it's doing the work for you.
Very true. So that's another thing too. Try it out. See, you know, 1 month, if you turn that on and be boosted out, like see the data, see the numbers. Because most of the time, that $10, it makes itself over tenfold.
I think it's the get featured is what it was.
The get featured.
So that's what.
So, you know, sometimes you're like, oh, like I don't want to, like that's $10, but if you're making an extra 70, I mean, I'm no mathematician,
worth it,
but that seems like pretty good.
Yeah, and I'm an esthetician, not a mathematician.
Like that could be a shirt.
I know, right? Merch.
New merch coming soon. Okay, so also, could you explain? I know we touched on, you know, throughout, but continuing education, like the importance of it. Like, what would you say on that?
I have so much to say as an educator, as a mentor. I think when you're in the treatment room and you're just trying to put your head down and run a business, you're just focusing on that. And you can get really stagnant. You can isolate yourself. And I think it is so important to have a community of people around you. And so with the mentorship, monthly meetings, monthly check-ins, phone calls. You know, I had a student who called me a couple weeks ago and was asking me how to help her get her business license and where she starts with that. Because nobody makes it easy for you. You know, it's just kind of all over the place. So to have somebody who has that experience working in, you know, I have the experience of working in a spa under, you know, my mentor and working there for 3 years, and then also being on my own. I have, you know, experience from both sides. I also keep up on labor laws and, you know, the laws for estheticians and what's out of scope for us and things like that. So somebody who is knowledgeable about the industry, because it can feel really lonely and really scary when you're just starting out. And so kind of having that touch point of a person, because once you leave school, that's it. Like you leave school and there's no, you know, so hopefully you have a really amazing relationship with your instructor and you can kind of reach out to them. But for the most part, once you leave, you leave. And so having that kind of continued education after with courses and, you know, refining skills. Like I have a course on extractions, and I have a lot of seasoned estheticians who were never taught that in school, who've been practicing for a couple of years, who are coming to me and saying, you know, hey, I really need more help with this. And I wasn't taught this in school. I've just been kind of winging it, and I'm not as efficient as I want to be in the treatment room on this. Can you help me? And so, then we do a 3-hour, you know, course with a model where I'm showing you techniques and I'm showing you how to prep the skin and all these things. things that were not taught to you in school.
No.
Or maybe if they were, they went by in a flash and you can't, you know,
They're
you
trying
don't
to get the
remember.
basics down. They want you to pass state board, and then it's
Yeah.
like, okay, well, how do I like run numbers or like business?
Exactly.
That's not, I feel like, not a huge piece.
Exactly. Yeah. And I have business experience from before I became an esthetician. So that helps because I have like the operations, the systems, like the paperwork, all of that. I can, you know, help them navigate that.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, and if y'all haven't known yet, Sara is one of our amazing icon Vagaro coaches. She can be found if you go to her Instagram or at Vagaro Pro. You can find all our coaches there. And Sara is incredible. If you're listening to this and you feel like I want more, or you want to, you know, brush up on your skills, definitely check her out. I just wanted to do a little plug right there.
Thank you.
You know, so something that too, you know, on the business side, and this is such a like hot topic right now, is pricing. I kind of want to hear your take on that, and how do you know when it's time to raise your prices, and how do I do it? Like, and you know, with that fear of like the client will leave me, and what, you know.
That's like a tricky, that's a tricky subject.
Yeah.
I think, you know, I have some students that graduate from as new estheticians who aren't really licensed, who start their own businesses and their own practices, and they charge more than I do, like right out of the gate. You know, it's kind of based on your area. It's based on your level of expertise. It's also based on who you want your clientele to be and who your demographic to be. And so I always say, figure out who your demographic is. Figure out, you know, is it women in your area between 25 and 45? Is it, you know, what is your special? Like I specialize in acne, and I'm a certified lash lift artist. And so those are kind of my two things that I really focus in on. And I look in my, you know, my area. I try not to look too much in my area because it can make me a little unfocused. And I try to figure out kind of what I need to get, which is why you need a mentor to have a business plan. Because if I didn't have a business plan and I didn't know what was going out and what was coming in, then I would be all over the place. And I think that a lot of people who just graduate school, they kind of jump into solo entrepreneurship and they get a space and they have rent and they have all these expenses, but they're not really making, the money's not coming in yet. So I think it can be a little frustrating. And so really knowing what's going out, knowing what's coming in, knowing what you need to make per hour to kind of not just keep the doors open, but to also pay yourself, because it's important to do that. You don't need to be working for free, and you also don't need to be going into debt to do this, right? There are other options. So kind of doing all of the things to kind of like get to that number.
So, and we covered so much stuff today. I feel like I'm so much wiser from this.
I love this.
And, you know, just, you know, personal touch, automation, it all really comes, you can't have one without the other. You know, to not be afraid of it, to embrace it, but then also don't forget just, oh, well, it does it for me, and then you got to not be present. That doesn't work either. So, you know, in conclusion of all of this and everything we've talked about, and if there's like one thing that you want people to really take home and to really, you know, just ruminate with, what is something that, or even like homework for them, like what is something that, you know, they should really focus on, or just a lasting message for them, you know, going back into taking their clients after they're done wanting this, you know, what is some advice and just generally.
I would say, you know, the importance of having a business plan. Like I said, know what's going in, or know what's coming in, know what's going out, and getting to know Vagaro and all of its features, and know, because I feel like you can just scratch the surface and it's amazing, you know, but if you really dig in deep and you really see all of the features and everything that it has to offer, it can do so much more for you than you ever expected, and it takes so much off of your plate. And that, and also, you know, mentorship and having, you know, if you feel like you are struggling, if you feel like you don't really, your business isn't growing, you're not evolving, kind of, you know, having someone come alongside you and work with you, not as, you know, when I do the mentorship, it's not like me being better than the other person, or me like kind of like being an overlord, or like keeping you to it's just someone coming alongside you, and someone just being a friend and being a companion and saying, hey, let me help you. Where are the gaps that need to be filled, and what are the things that maybe we can modify a little bit to make things easier for you, or to, make you more money, right?
Absolutely. And so it's, know your tools, learn your tools, utilize them.
Yes.
They're there to help you. Yeah. People are there to help you. It's always like, what's beyond fear, it's like the knowledge will always conquer it. Yep. And that will help with that side of it, the fear side. So having a coach or mentor by your side so you can confidently go into the room and be like, this is what we're doing and this is why, and I'm making this decision because of this, and just having that knowledge and education. But oh my gosh, Sara, that was so incredible. Thank you for sharing all of your information with us today. Where can they find you on Instagram? What's your handle?
So my handle is Bolt Beauty LA, Bolt Beauty LA, and I'm based out of Los Angeles. And you can find all my mentorship information there. But it's not just Los Angeles. Like, I can do things like remotely, and so even if you're not in Los Angeles, we can still have a mentorship and do that.
Yeah, so we're going to drop her mentor link in the chat, and if you want to check her out and learn more from Sara, I just want to say thank you so much for taking your time to watch Iconic 24 today with Sara in this session. Stay iconic. Bye, guys.